Welcome to the Rising for Women podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Merlo-Booth, and I believe the world will be changed for women when we change how we walk in it. So each week, we're going to have hard conversations. We're going to explore new options. Some of them are going to be hard options, and we're going to have some real, straight talk. We're going to do that because I have faith that women can handle it.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Rising Podcast for Women. Today, your hosts are myself, Dee Marcotte, and Arlene Newman. Unfortunately, our usual host is not able to be with us today, Lisa Merlo-Booth. But we're thinking good thoughts about her. But today, our topic is, you can't always get what you want.
And I said that you can't always get what you want, honey. You can.
So even there's a song about it, amazingly enough. So what do we see about this, Arlene, in terms of we don't always get what we want?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's a great subject. I see women not really knowing how to deal with that well, without feeling really either victim-y or really angry and self-righteous and not knowing past, accepting that you can't always get what you want.
Yeah. Yeah, I see it in terms of like oftentimes as women, and even with myself, like I ask once, and then if it's not happening my way, then I can either withdraw or again, I can be boundary violating, yelling and screaming, name calling, manipulating, do any of those kinds of things. But I even saw it can be so simple. Like I was at a baseball game last night and there's a couple in front of me. And I noticed that this woman says to the guy, the vendors down there get a beer and peanuts. And it was taking kind of a long time. The vendor was doing a lot of things down there. And you can see that, well, it didn't happen how she wanted it, when she wanted it. So she huffs up, takes her two kids and goes to get the peanuts. And I'm like, he's just not doing it on your time schedule. But she was really huffy about it.
Right. So that's that's kind of being angry and self-righteous. And what I see happening a lot is that they kind of feel hopeless. Women feel hopeless when they have they try the one skill. They'll do it right. They may do it perfectly, everything that they've ever learned how to do it well, and it doesn't happen. And then they say, oh, it didn't happen. So now what? Now what?
Yeah, and that I'm not being listened to. I hear that is. So see, they don't, if I just ask nicely, nothing happens.
Right. Oh, I get that all the time. Absolutely. I can't believe I've gotten that many, many times.
Yeah. And I'm like, well, you asked, and what I hear is you didn't get exactly how you would do it on exactly your timeline. But if you would have waited a moment, you would have gotten it. And sometimes they even do get it. It's just not their way and on their time schedule.
So maybe the skills that we're talking about have to do with both letting go of when you can't get what you want, even though you've tried a few steps, and learning what the few steps may be after you've asked once and it didn't happen. That there needs to be ongoing conversation until you come to a point where you realize it's not going to happen.
Well, and I think also with it, and we've talked about this a little bit on and off in different podcasts, and it's the idea that, is like, how important is this actually? Like that you're not getting your beer and peanuts exactly when you want them. Like on the scale of things, like, so I think this is one of the ways, and that we can talk about a bunch of ways that women shoot themselves in the foot in terms of getting what they want, because it's so we're so reactive, whether it's a blow up reaction or a withdrawal reaction. And then the person on the other side just goes, I can't do anything right with you. How many times have you heard that?
That's right. Way too many.
Way too many. Yeah. What are some other things that we've seen that that are things that we do that really aren't helpful and cost us? What does this cost us?
You know, what women do with their partner? Because I was thinking what they do internally also.
Yeah, that's a good point. So yeah, speak to that.
Well, they complain a lot. They complain to their friends. They complain to me. They complain and complain and complain. They're not proactive. They're not trying to figure out how to deal with it. They kind of end up sinking into this place of kind of helpless, hopeless. I have to say victim. I don't really like using that word, but I feel.
Yeah. Well, I think it is, if I'm deciding you have to change for me to be okay, I've just kind of made myself my own victim. Because if my well-being is totally going to depend on you doing things exactly my way in my timeline, and I can't take no, and sometimes the answer is just no. I think that's the other thing. And women are kind of like, at least the women in my office are like, no, but I'm gonna keep on this like a dog on a bone. And then, like you said, then that sets up that system of, I'm not getting what I want. Oh, see, I can't do anything about it. So then I withdraw, I boundary violate, and then I get less of what I want and get more hopeless.
And there's misery with that. That's the other thing that I think we don't often recognize, that we make ourselves miserable. In that state, in that kind of self-righteous, indignant state, we're miserable. We're not empowered. We don't find creative solutions. We don't find other ways. We live in a kind of miserable, powerless, angry state.
Yeah.
And that is not good for us. It is not good for us to live that way.
No, I mean, just the stress of that.
Exactly. The stress on us over time is huge.
Yeah. Well, because you're always in this aggravated state. And that's not good for our bodies on several levels. I'm sorry, say it again.
It builds over time.
Yeah, it's cumulative. Yeah. It's not like, oh, because we're not like dealing with it and then letting it go. We're just like, you know. And then this is the, we've been married for 15 years and this is the 1,8600 whatever time you've done this. And all of them happen then in this month. So I think that's another thing that's not helpful, is now we bring in every single time you've basically said no, and I didn't want to hear it. Yeah. And I think in this, just to be sure that we say it specifically, this is how we give power away. That if I'm always like, I can't be okay until you agree to this and to do it my way, my timeline. Well, we've just said, okay, I can't do anything. Goes back to that victim-like feel, is that, see, like, what am I supposed, I can't do anything, And I really think there's this place about, I'm really not taking the no. And I don't know what you find, Arlene, but I find that because I think we've talked about this before, women will get caught up in the words rather than the action of the person. But if the person's like, even if they don't say the word no, if their actions are continually no, then it's no.
Right. So we have to deal with that, right? So if you're the recipient of the no, you have to let it in and think about, what do you want to do about that?
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. And,
You know.
And that whole idea of, if this is what it's costing me, this is a lot. It's also, I think, one of the other things, I was just in a conference and they were talking about like the different ages of kids and what happens with emotional upheaval of different kinds, and what happens to the children during that. And so if you have children, that this whole upsetness cycle that's getting created, this misery, they're drinking that in too.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't just something that's happening to you, it's going down to the next generation. Mm-hmm.
I think that's absolutely true. What are you children taking away by watching you, by living with you and absorbing your feelings of unhappiness and misery and powerlessness?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that continual powerlessness piece. Yeah, and what they absorb. It's just so much. And that piece of, it doesn't matter if they're little boys or little girls. They're each learning something, maybe different, but they're each learning something, which is generally, oh, girl, I have no power. Boy, I'm the powerful one. Because that's the feel of what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the feel.
I think that's a very good point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I think it's just really important to recognize that. I also, so we went one down, I'm also thinking about, what did you learn from the generation above you?
Above you, meaning
Like being
generation
your parents,
from?
yeah, your parents or your grandparents, you know, like how much of this and how you handle this is learned from that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, totally. That says it all. Without saying
We
it.
learned it, and we're trying to unlearn it, but we have to first recognize that this is something to unlearn,
Right.
because it's so counterproductive.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to first recognize, because when we get into this place of believing that we're right,
Mm-hmm.
we're done. We have no
Mm-hmm.
moves. We have
Right.
no moves, just banging our head against the wall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, when there's this, it's just this one way and it's my way and it's the only way and it's the right way. It means that then when you say, I'm exhausted and I don't get any help and he or she never blah, it's blah, blah, blah. So it's kind of like, well, yeah, because you don't even give them space to do that.
And you don't consider, this is what I find a lot with my couples, that the women don't really consider who they're talking to.
Mm-hmm.
They talk to their partners the way they would talk to their friends, and the partners are not, they don't receive it in the same way.
Right.
And then
Mm-hmm.
the woman gets utterly frustrated
Mm-hmm.
and can get very blaming
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because she's not getting what she wants.
Right.
But she's not taking into account, like, who is this person in front of me and how do I need to speak with him so he understands what it is that I'm asking for?
Right. Yeah, I think definitely clarity is important in what you're asking for. But I think it's really important that we state, I don't care if you get an A++ in how you asked it. Sometimes the answer is no. And I don't like no, but but again,
It is kind of life, right? It is kind of, it is part of growing up. and understanding that you may be entitled, you may deserve, you may want it desperately, and you may still not be able to get it.
Yeah, it still might be no, you know. So
what do you do, Dee?
what do we do? Yeah, that's what do we do with this?
What do we do? What do you do? What do I do?
Right. What do we do? Well, I think the thing is, like, one thing, and we didn't talk about this right before, but I'm sorry, I have an eyelash, everybody. But one of the things I think we need to do is like really determine how important is this? Like, I think one of the things that I see women tend to do and I can do is everything is a 10 when I want a yes.
When I want it.
I want what I want when I want it. You know? So it doesn't matter if it's like, I think you should pick up that Kleenex on the floor, or, you know, something bigger, like, how are we going, like, I want the bathroom to look like this. If we remodel it, it doesn't matter. Like, everything's 10. And so I think one of the first things is we need to, like, stop and ask ourselves, really, on a scale of 1 to 10, where is this in importance?
You know what I'm thinking as you're saying it? I'm thinking about parents with children. I very often parents go to 10 with children.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? It becomes like, pick up those toys, and the energy with it, as if it's like life and death.
Right. Yeah.
And really learning how to modulate that and how not to make everything a 10 could really be very useful.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's useful also for you, because otherwise you're so, like we talked about, stressed and whatever, that you're always at this 10. And then your partner stops listening. If there's no differentiation between the 2s and the 7s and the 10s, then I start just not listening.
I think that's a great point. That's a
yeah. So I think that's one thing for us to figure out, like, really, how important is this on the scale? And said once again, even if it's a 10 for you, that doesn't mean you get it. Unless someone's being boundary violating, it's just something that you want. And it doesn't always happen the way you want it. You know, it's like, we might have even made a reference to this before, but I think about, like, I have a client who, she's kind of like, well, I can't ever leave home. I can't like go and get my hair done or this or that, the other thing, because he doesn't know what to do. And I'm like, well, have you ever given him a chance to see if he can do that? But the other thing is, he's not going to do it like you do. You know, so it's kind of like, it might be a yes, I'll take care of the kids, but no, I'm not going to do it your way. I'm sorry, what did you say?
No, I say, and at the end of the day, your children are going to be okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So don't even ask how. Don't even ask how he's going to do it.
Oh, okay, it's yours. Yeah.
Then you have to let go of the control. You have to let go of whatever it means for you to have it done your way, and just trust that when you come back in 2 hours, the kids are going to be
kids are still going to be living. Yes. And again, we're not talking about domestic violence or some terrible situation. We're talking about, you know, your average American.
Yeah, like he didn't feed him the way you would have fed him, or what you would have fed him.
What you would have fed him.
Let them watch more TV than you would have, or whatever. He put on dirty pajamas. It doesn't matter. It could be any single thing.
Yeah, and it's like that top doesn't go with those pants.
Yeah.
Do you want him to take care of the kid or not? You know, or who was ever on the other side.
Yeah, but
yeah.
I think we have to get our own kind of rigidities and self-righteousness that we tend to get caught.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. So, but some of these things, if we let them go, it's hard. It's
And we
hard
have to
let go.
mourn. We have to mourn. We have to
Mhm.
grieve.
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
have to accept that we can't always get what we want. And that's life.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's no fault.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's not personal to you.
Mhm. Yeah,
And
it's
you
just
do.
different. Mhm.
That's
Mhm.
right.
Mhm.
That's huge. Accepting that you and your partner are two different human beings.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
And
Yeah.
if
And
you
I
can
think,
accept that,
go ahead.
well, if you can accept that
Mhm.
and you don't think that you are right and they're wrong because they're different, then you have to develop the skills that will enable you to navigate those differences.
Right. Mhm. Mhm. And sometimes it's still no. You know, again, you can do a whole bunch of things, but it's also true that no is no, you know. And so part of it is like that acceptance, the letting it go, grieving if it was something I really wanted. Um, and you know, I think one thing that's helpful is if you ask someone to do something and they say okay, not only do you have to get your little sticky hands off of it, but if you have a time urgency, you need to let the other person know
Yeah.
that, you know. I would really, you know, for me, I would really ask in my request that not only do you take care of the kids, but you make sure that they're in bed by 8.
Mhm.
That part's
Yeah,
really
be
important.
very specific and not assume that they would know,
Mm-hmm.
that they're as aware of it. If this is something that you do normally, you have to be very specific.
Right, right. And, you know, I don't know what you think, but I think one of the ways to determine on a 1 to 10 how important is this is, am I going to leave you over it?
Right. Yeah, is
You
this a
know.
deal breaker?
Yeah, is it a deal breaker?
Most things are not.
Right, they're not going to be at all. So, given all this, what's our challenge to women? I mean, of course, we have the Arlene Newman, get aware.
Be aware. Be aware.
Always.
Be aware. Always first. I think the challenge is, yes, be aware. Have tools in your toolbox as to how to navigate the no,
Mhm.
and learn how to deal when you can't get what you want. Learn how to deal with the feelings. Don't turn it into resentment
Mhm.
that you build over time that is so toxic to you and your relationship.
Mhm.
But really learn how to grieve and let go and accept that
Mhm. Mhm.
no matter how well you've portrayed it, no matter how important it is to you, sometimes the answer is still going to be no.
Yeah. And I think with that idea, I think maybe over the next few weeks to really, every time you want to say something, ask yourself on the 1 to 10 scale, where is this? How important is this before you start speaking? Mhm.
And
And notice what happens if I don't speak.
not to go into feeling like an angry victim. I think that would be another challenge, to not go into being an angry victim if you can't get what you want.
Right.
Know that you have accepted that you can ask and not get.
Right.
That's life. That doesn't make you into a victim.
Right.
You always do have the choice. If it's really a 10, if it's a deal breaker, okay. But if it's not a deal breaker, you have chosen to stay in this relationship with this person who is not either willing or able to give you what you're asking for.
Mhm. I love that. You always have a choice. You
Always
may
have
not
a
like your choice, but you have a choice. Yeah.
You do have that
Okay.
choice.
Challenge for men.
Well, I think it's not that different,
Mm-hmm.
except that men tend to use different strategies to get what they want than women.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think in terms of for men, when the woman, person, whoever in your life is asking you something, you can say, I'm happy to do that. Or be clear about, I can't do that, or this is what I could do. This would be your answers. Mm-hmm.
Well, as you're saying that, I'm aware that the men that I know do not have those skills readily available. I feel like we need to do a podcast for men.
That's right. I think we do need to do a podcast for men.
We need to give them some tools of how they can. I think men often don't know how to respond.
True.
To women.
I think it's very true.
Straightforward way, and they will often say, they will kind of yes them to death.
Yeah.
And then not do it, and without
and then not do it.
how
Right.
provocative it is, and
Yeah.
enraging, and how they set themselves up.
Right.
So I think men need some of those tools too. How
absolutely.
to feel entitled to say no.
Right. Right.
I
Other
think-
podcasts for that. So women, you're going to become aware. You're going to look at your 1 to 10 scale. You're going to work with the no. Men, you're going to listen and be clear. Yes, no, or what can I give you?
Yeah, and you're going to deal with your feelings. You're not going to withdraw, stop asking, and be angry and build up resentment. You're not going to do that.
We're not going to do that.
You're not going to.
Exactly. So
you're going to learn about letting go.
Right. So thank you. We hope you have enjoyed this podcast. If you do, please let us know. If you have anything you'd like us to talk about, let us know about that. And remembering.
Can't always get what you want.
And remember, you can't always get what you want. Bye-bye.
Hey, and it's okay.
Thank you again for joining us this week. And always remember, you have the power to change the world for women by changing how you walk in it. I challenge you to choose one way to stand in your grounded, powerful strength this week and be part of the ripple of change.